Good morning, everybody. Will the secretary please call the roll?
Yes, so the first position is vacant, so not here. Timothy Callan is absent, John Elmore absent, Todd Hobler.
Here.
Glenn Lenahan, chair.
Here.
Kate Masiello here, Dennis Murphy.
Present.
Susan Swartz. Here. Amy Wilson.
Here.
TK Adebayo.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Let's just begin the meeting with a moment of reflection, quiet thought for all the good things that our campus does every day to help people. And also, let's have a moment of silence for Mr. Larry Burrell, who lost his life. He's a troubled individual who lost his life during the storm last year. Let's remember him today. Thank you. Let's see here. Let's start with the consent agenda. Does anybody have any?
I have a correction to the minutes.
Okay.
Actually, it's from the president's report from the minutes of the December meeting, which state that the college recently submitted a grant. And in fact, I would suggest that we amend the minutes to say the college recently entered into a partnership with Pellet Productions in Boston, Massachusetts for technician education materials and plasma technology. Nanotechnology Department Chair Anthony DeLesio is the designated college representative.
Okay. Do we hear a motion to correct?
Motion.
Second. All those in favor?
Aye. So I'd like to move the amended minutes.
Okay. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. Okay, on the rest of the consent agenda, do we have any other questions or thoughts or anything? If not, we will move for, I'll entertain a motion to approve.
So moved.
Motion made by trustee Masiello, seconded by trustee Schwartz. Thank you, Susan. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The consent agenda is approved. Okay, let's move on to finance. Tim is not here. Penny is. We have two items. Why don't we take up the issue of the petty cash? We can move that. We'll hear a motion.
So moved.
We'll hear a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay, on the item of the $50,000 threshold, we're going to table that this morning. We are working on it. Progress is being made, but we have some other issues to clarify on that. So we'll leave that on the table. Any questions on that or any concerns? Okay. Okay, so then we have the rest of the financial management agenda. Penny, would you like to address anything in particular?
No, just the normal reports that we give you. We gave the quarterly annual report, budget to actual. We didn't have any questions, we had a few questions,
Right.
but no further questions during committee meeting. So what we are going to begin to do this year is we're beginning to share the quarterly reports with the county, just so
Great.
they have, for their financial records, they have that information as well. And then we will also be doing, just for your information, we'll be doing the mid-year review or update with them, just to give them the normal mid-year review that we give them in March 14th, I believe is when it is.
Okay. So everything else is for informational purposes. Does any other questions? Dennis?
Mr. Chair, just a comment that the board is receiving items 1, 2, and 3 as the draft management letter, the draft audit, and also the quarterly report. While it's not the final, it's important to note for the record that we make. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So those are filed. We can now move on to policy and governance. Trustee Masiello, Chairman.
I'm sorry, I had a question.
Sure. Okay.
About item number 7 on the financial health report.
Yes.
About facility rentals. I'm just wondering if there were forms submitted by those whose application was waived to have a fee waiver. They're supposed to be filling out a report to explain why that is in the interest of the college. I'm wondering if that was done.
Yes, they do. When they request a waiver, there is a form that they have to fill out. If it goes through the approval, we look at it. We look at what it's for typically. If it's municipal or county or something along those lines will waive it, at least partial part of it. I believe we attached all the waiver forms to the back, to the end of the request that you made last week. So, because I asked for this, I asked, and we had the policy at the front, and then all the waivers, the things that were approved as waivers were attached to the back, or to the end of that file. If you need us to send
I
it
have a
again.
question that I had asked as opposed to being included in the board packet. So the policy, I mean, we're not including it in the board packet, we're just making sure that you've
Yes,
gone
it
through
is
that
done.
due diligence.
Anybody that wants a waiver has to fill that form out, and it has to go through the review process.
Great, thank you.
Okay.
Sorry.
Any other questions before we move on? Okay. Then we will now turn to policy and governance, Chair Mazziello.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We have 2 board policies for the board's approval and 3 policies for the board's information that are managerial in nature. The first is the anti-hazing policy, which is on page 31. I'm sorry to say we have just a very slight edit to page 232 under C. It should be defining that hazing occurs if a person or group engages in conduct that by design, we just forgot the verb. So
Okay.
other than that, this policy, I want to thank the team at the policy committee and all the folks who sit around the table every month to really go deep on these policies. This is an important one to have in place so that expectations on student behavior and those of the clubs that are affiliated with the college are spelled out for everybody so that they understand what is acceptable and what is not. Does anybody have any questions on the anti-hazing policy? Then I would ask for a motion to move.
Motion made, seconded by trustee Hobler. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Item is approved. Fund balance.
Second, we have a fund balance reserve policy. This was brought to the board last time we met to get your temperature on how you wanted to address this. We appreciate the input from both the Finance Committee and the board as a whole. A slight explanation on page 235 under the issue or statement of purpose. Just an edit to the first sentence, which should read, the SUNY Board of Trustees proposes to create a fund balance reserve policy that strikes a balance between affordable tuition and sufficient fund balance. Other than that, this policy is intended to make sure that we have a cushion so that we can address emergencies or unexpected occurrences as they arise, but maintaining tuition at an affordable rate for our students. So I would move that this policy be accepted by the board, or approved by the board.
The motion's been made. Do we hear a second? Second by trustee Hobler. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Item is approved. Again, Kate, thanks for your work on it. That's a lot of trudging through the...
Yes, well, and the committee has really done an outstanding job, and we intend to keep on moving through all these policies so that we have one set of policies that are clear and concise and cogent and relevant. And we're continuing our work, and thank everybody for that. And again, there are 3 policies here: travel policy, emergency closing policy, and the drug and alcohol-free work policy that are for the board's acceptance. And I just want to say that on the drug and alcohol and workplace policy, there are some minor corrections, only because, and the edits we've gone through, but I want to make sure that when we talk about the policy that exists here, we want to specifically state in the purpose of the policy. It would be in the overview section on page 243 of your package, page 2 of the policy. We want to state specifically that the only exception to what follows in this policy will be for alcoholic beverages for college-sanctioned special events. We don't want people to think that just because this policy prohibits alcohol use, that they can't do it at SGA and other events.
They can't, though.
And so also, and the, there's this section, I'm trying to find where it is, the lawful and appropriate use of alcoholic beverages by employees and students at social events shall be allowed for events sponsored or approved by the college. So I just wanted to clarify that this is not taking away those opportunities for events that have been sanctioned by the college and have the appropriate permits in place. So with those changes, I'd like to move the acceptance of this specific drug and alcohol workplace policy.
Okay, there's been a motion made. Do I hear a second? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye, thank you. Our next meeting of the policy committee is tomorrow at
Yes.
11 a.m., and you're all encouraged to attend.
There we go. Thank you, Kate. Okay, advancement.
The advancement had no meeting in January, but we are meeting tomorrow at 9 a.m. And again, you're encouraged to attend. I think the president has some updates on advancement items, but there's nothing official to report from the committee.
Okay, strategic planning and assessment, trustee
Yes,
Murphy.
good morning. The report, there was not a meeting in January as posted. However, I'm very pleased to see that we've distributed our cap plan review for 2019, so that we're moving forward with that, and reaffirming our commitments. Thank you.
Okay. Thanks, Dennis. Okay, now we have student diversity, student success and diversity, co-chair Schwartz and Denise Wilson. Bring before us.
Okay. We met last month. We just had a robust discussion about many issues. I don't think there's anything major to highlight other than what's brought before for approval. And I could be, if anyone else has anything else to add.
Okay, Susan, anything?
We're good.
Okay. So we do have a motion here on items 1 and 2.
Yes. So I guess I would like to make a motion for items, we can do them individually or.
Sure.
Individually.
Whatever you
Okay,
think.
for the advisory council appointments requested by SUNY Erie for the associate degree programs of automotive tech and business admin.
Okay. Motion made.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Item 2.
I would also like to make a motion for agreements between the County of Erie through the Erie County Department of Social Services and SUNY Erie for 1, purchase of employment and training services, and 2, worksite sponsor to provide work experience activities are requested by the Career and Success Training Department renewals.
Okay. Any discussion? Motion's been made. Do I hear a second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, thank you. We have one item that's this has been refiled. Okay, my report, there's been a number of activities and things we've been participating in. Certainly the convocation to start the spring semester, I believe it was on the 16th. Very exciting session. Dan spoke, Doug was introduced as our new provost. And I thought there was just a lot of spirit in that room. I think our faculty and our staff are certainly ready for the spring semester, and it was a pleasure to be there. We also had 2 different functions at Northland, the training center, that is really getting a lot of good reviews. Great article in the paper last week. We had a tour. Our trustees had a tour. I think it was early January, like first week in January. I thought it was well done. Then there was a community reception for them naming their board of directors. Trustee Wilson was there, and I think we had some others as well. And there's just a lot of good, positive energy moving through that whole program. Peter Coleman, who represents the Manufacturers Association, I think is providing some really great leadership and telling us what the needs in terms of updating our curriculum are. And so I think, I just think that that's a huge plus. I see that they've doubled their student population for this semester. It's terrific. So good. Some good things are happening at Northland. We met with the foundation to try to come to terms with our agreement, and we're making progress there. We had a good, solid discussion with them here in the boardroom, and I think we're moving along there as well. Last night, happy to attend a reception with Trustee Murphy for honoring Rick and welcoming Doug. out at the North Campus. Rick's career was certainly highlighted, and a gift was given to him on behalf of the college. And it was just great to celebrate his life, his contribution to this community, and happy to say he's going to be staying on and I guess teaching in the chemical dependency area and running that program. So anyways, a lot of good things that are happening here, and we appreciate all the efforts that are being made. Just on the board committees here and the onboarding compliance, that's just the receive and file, isn't it?
Committee.
Item A. And we've discussed, I'm not sure if that
There's no
requires.
attachment.
Yeah, no attachment,
No
yeah.
attachment.
Yeah, there's no action required there. It's just a receive and file, as is the auxiliary services certificate and bylaws agreement. We do have to approve the resolution approving the corporation amendment on the item C. Actually, I guess we have to approve B and C, if I'm not mistaken.
I think you're right.
Okay.
Particularly because it affects the CAP.
Right.
Our
Right.
auxiliary service secretary certificate.
Yes.
So we'll move a motion both on B and C to approve.
Motion.
Second, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Again, Susan, on the onboarding and compliance, is that simply, are we simply receiving that?
I'm not aware of the compliance part. What do you mean
Right.
by that? I'm not,
Well,
I've been out of the loop for a while, so. but-
okay, just so, it's on the agenda. I don't know if there's actually required on that.
I might be able to
Help me
add
with
some
that.
commentary to this.
Oh,
Okay.
that's
First of all, it's an update,
Yeah.
it's progress. What became out at the top of the list in our prior discussions was that it was a very important item to make sure that we're implementing the onboarding program that was
Right.
established. And it was tested out and confirmed that this is exactly what we want to do for the onboarding procedure.
Okay.
And I think that if we set aside a certain time at a meeting in the near future, just to run through it, make sure that we're all having a common understanding.
Okay. So there's no action required for that today. Okay, thank you. Okay, we'll move on to the ad hoc committees. In terms of marketing, working with Paulo, we've scheduled a meeting for February 26th. We're going to be reviewing our marketing program. Any comment on that?
So what we're doing is actually moving to a marketing working group, which is going to be consisting of all of the academic, as well as the campus deans, as well as a few people at the mid-management director level who are really on the ground floor of working through enrollment issues or challenges or communicating with students. So that group is actually going to be meeting on a quarterly basis. It's the group that we've been talking about getting together for a while now. But there'll be a very active working group, and Lynn's going to be coming to those meetings with us to kind of get a sense of what we're working on.
Good, thank you. Looking forward to that. Technology, anything, Dennis?
Just two items. First off, the technology group has not been actively meeting
Right.
and is not scheduled to meet as it's been trying to stay out of the way of management to accomplish this large workday agenda. However, I think it would be appropriate to invite the team in for next month to provide an update to us,
Right.
to show us and demonstrate
Okay.
to us what's the progress has been. Thank you, sir.
Do you mean for the informational meeting in February or for the?
February, yes.
Okay, very good. We will do that. Okay, curriculum, Todd?
There's no report.
Okay, thank you. And talent management, Susan?
No report.
Okay. So we'll move to the report of the president.
Great. I'd like to begin by welcoming Doug to his very first board meeting. As some of you know, he was the unanimous choice of the selection committee. He has excelled in the areas of growth that we are looking to advance, including new student populations, online programming, as well as retention. And the word among the provosts at SUNY is he is simply a rock star. So I would like to turn it over to Doug to kind of introduce himself to the board for those of you who have not met him and those of us. us watching on live stream.
Sure. Happy to be here. Very happy to be back in Western New York. I've been here, moved here for graduate school in 1986. Dan asked me to give you a little more of an introduction of myself to tell you a little bit about what I've been doing. I was here for grad school and then became faculty at Rockport and commuted from my home in downtown Buffalo to Rockport for 20 years, where I moved from faculty to chair to dean and ended as interim provost there. And had the opportunity then to move to SUNY Canton as provost, where I was for 3.5 years before having the opportunity to come here. Very happy to be back in Western New York. Yes, I'm back home. Buffalo's my adopted hometown since I've been here since 1986. And the interesting thing is, when I became interim provost at Rockport, I arrived to a enrollment and revenue, and therefore budget challenge, and a Middle States monitoring report. So in 1 year, I balanced the budget and accrued a reserve in academic affairs, and we resolved the monitoring report. So then I went to SUNY Canton as provost to a Middle States monitoring report and a enrollment, revenue, and budget challenge. And so we resolved the monitoring report and invested strategically to drive up enrollments and via an enrollment management plan that I put in place. And so I come to SUNY Erie, and while I was applying and landing and studying the campus, I found a monitoring report and an enrollment, revenue, and budget challenge, and I said, okay, here we go again. So happy to be here. And the great thing is that I think my experience at Canton, in terms of addressing those things, I can bring here and adapt to the situation here. And so my thoughts, and this is 5th week, so this is an emerging plan, but adapted from what I did at Canton. My perspective on what we can do focuses on a 3-pillar approach to enrollment management. And the 3 pillars are broadly recruitment, retention, because if you bring the students in, retaining them into the second semester or the second year is part of enrollment management. And the 3rd pillar is program development. Program development can include new programs, micro-credential certificates or degree programs, but it can also involve developing the programs as they exist to drive enrollment, or being more responsive to industry to drive employment afterwards with transfer. But I'm very interested in the development of the programs to make them online or moving our partially online programs to fully online to hit our accessibility mission for the working and parenting adult. My previous campus was 41% of the students were enrolled in completely online programs, and that was the reason that the college was moving out of an enrollment and fiscal challenge. Because all of the Northeast and SUNY, especially outside of New York City, are facing a challenge we can talk about in great depth. We love data. But in any event, I'm very interested in that. And then in terms of recruitment, there are a number of strategies we can address in recruitment. Advanced studies in terms of expanding that program, also enhancing the number of advanced study students who subsequently matriculate here. That's currently at 33%, room to grow. And recruitment of working adults, working and parenting adults is a huge possibility, especially if you look back, and the 3rd part of recruitment is if you look at our graduation rate, there are a lot more people who stopped out than who've graduated. So we know they're out there. It's an opportunity for restarts. And again, that speaks to making our programs accessible to the working and parenting adult. And retention is especially huge because it takes a lot of time, money, and effort to recruit and onboard a student. And there are a lot of best practices for how to serve a student once they're already here to help them stay and move through to success, to transfer or employment. That was a work that I did especially at Canton. Canton was very similar. It was St. Lawrence County's community college, although it's a state op. And when I got there, it had a 31% graduation rate, and 3.5 years later, it was 44%. And the retention rate was 61%, and when I left, it was 70%. So those are hugely important numbers, certainly for enrollment and revenue budget, but most importantly, that's important for those students who could have been stop outs, but instead were graduates. And so That's really my focus. Some of you have heard this one, so stop me if you've heard this before, but I'm passionate about helping students move to success because I really believe, and my father pushed this very hard, a post-secondary credential is the ticket to the middle class. Without it, you might land something, but you're not guaranteed a living wage, job security, and benefits. And if you do have such a credential, you can pretty much expect that as part of your life. And so that's the fork in the road that we are an opportunity, and we have to make and give that opportunity to the best of our ability, because that fork in the road is crucial for our students. And actually, educational attainment is not just for our students, but it changes their family dynamic for generations, absolutely. So what we do is hugely important, and that's part of the message that I plan to lead forward with our faculty and staff, because if we all understand how important our work is really, then we work much harder, much more consistently to serve the students forward to success. So that's my passion, and but I also have a strong belief in implementing passion through best practices and empirically validated practices. So I have a whole literature review that I could talk about. I'm a professor. I can't introduce myself in less than 3 hours, but there's no quiz. But that's my focus 5 weeks in, and I'm hoping to further refine that as we move forward. But in essence, that's the starting point of how I think we can move forward from where we're at, despite the challenges of demography and the challenges that our students face to completion. I'm looking forward to meeting you all individually or in committee meetings, so, but feel free to push in.
I'm delighted, that's great.
Just want to point out that Doug got a gift last night from Paolo Mana. He was introducing Doug, and he said that Doug's known for speaking softly, but it's important that he carries a big stick. So you got the biggest bat that I've ever seen. So nobody's going to mess with you, Doug, for a while. Thanks.
Not that
Welcome
we condone
on behalf of the board. Dan?
Now on to a report from IRAP and our bureau in the Middle East. A new SUNY Erie data site will go live in the next several weeks. Introductory sessions are currently being held at each of our 3 campuses. I think it's important for our move into the 21st century. So we'll be posting more and more documents and data on this electronic reporting platform, which will help us ensure data security as well as allow continuous access to data by board members as well as others. And IRAP is preparing an institutional effectiveness handbook to simplify and centralize planning and assessment documentation. This will help us with our Middle States report that's due in the fall, and we're calling it a handbook because we hope that people will keep it on hand, in hand, and handy. I want to commend Fabio Escobar for his work on preparing this handbook and his leadership of the office generally. He's brought a professionalism as well as cutting edge technology to the office, and he's very well regarded by Middle States. He was on a visiting team to do a review in Puerto Rico not too long ago. So institutional research does have its benefits. From Human Resources, Workday Recruit is now live, replacing Taleo as the applicant tracking system. And I'm very excited to announce that a collaboration between Student Affairs, the Sociology Department, HR, and the Office of Equity and Diversity. Just this week we kicked off SUNY Erie's Diversity Academy. The goal is to create a more welcoming environment at SUNY Erie, and faculty and staff are invited to participate in a series of discussions designed to identify barriers to equality. So this week's topic was white, the new minority, and it was extremely well received. There were over 52 attendees, and our thanks to Marianne Partey, or is it Partey?
She says
for facilitating the event, and thanks also to Marlene Arno for her help in organizing. Some of the next sessions include Black, the Devalued, Immigrant, the Invisible, Gender Identities and Religion. So the Diversity Academy's mission is to strengthen our resolve to make SUNY Erie a more welcoming space for everyone. And special thanks to our new CDO, Chief Diversity Officer, she's here, Tracy Archie, and our VP of HR and Equity, Tracy Cleveland, for coming up with this initiative.
There's actually a brochure on your desk for more information about our program.
So report from Enrollment Management, we are currently down roughly 6% year to date from spring of 2018. Now, these are not the final numbers for spring, and I'll repeat this again, these are not the final numbers for spring. Advanced Studies is continuing registration for their second semester courses, and we'll finalize that number on about February 20th, as well as our Pathways program, which generates FTE for us, is continuing registration to the end of the month. So despite great interest from various county entities, we won't know our final spring numbers until the first week of March. As we've discussed here at board meetings, some of the factors in the declining enrollment trends for Erie County and New York State include the diminishing pipeline of high school students. High school graduates are projected to drop 13% in the next 10 years for Erie County, which is consistent with the statewide drop of roughly 12%. The Excelsior Scholarship has also taken away our price advantage, so qualified students can go straight to UB now, whereas before they might do 2 years with us before transferring over to UB. So our 6% decline compares very favorably with some of our SUNY Community College peers. For instance, Tompkins Cortland has reported a minus 15%. A drop in enrollment. Suffolk, minus 9% drop in enrollment. Cayuga, minus 8%. Broome, minus 7%. And so we'll keep you up to date as to what the other community colleges are experiencing.
Dan, do they have any plans? Have you talked to any of the presidents there to see what they're
I
intended to
spent
do to try?
early January visiting many of them, and some are mystified. Others are seeking additional county support. So I was at Clinton, and their county has decided to up their contribution to 35% of their operating budget, whereas ours is about half that, roughly. So they're looking at other sources of revenue. Clinton, again, might be leasing part of their waterfront property on Lake Champlain for a hotel. So again, non-tuition revenue, and as we are looking to do that, renting space, an emphasis on online programming, and advanced studies. I know some colleges, some community colleges, they want to remain unnamed, but 40% of their operating budget comes from advanced studies. So there's different strategies depending on the context for the community college.
Thank you.
In terms of our revenue to budget forecast, as I mentioned, our headcount is down about 5%, but our FTE is actually ahead of projection by about 4%. So at this point in time, we're roughly within 1% of our target revenue. So we are basically on budget, and these numbers do not include winter intersession and summer enrollment numbers. So we actually have a buffer to help balance out any deficit. And we can make adjustments with regards to future spending, including vacancy control, to ensure that we're on budget. So we're in good shape. We're on budget with regards to revenue, and for our many county entities and interested onlookers, I repeat, we're right on budget. So we did anticipate this drop in high school students, and hence our renewed focus on advanced studies as well as working adults by continuing to increase access through our online offerings. At the same time, we wanted to drill down to look at, for us, what's causing this decrease in enrollment year to date. And much of it can be attributed to continuing students not re-registering in the spring. So as a proactive measure, I've started an initiative I'm calling Integrated Retention Management. And this will be a comprehensive retention plan across various offices with a particular focus on identifying students who are at risk of not persisting through their programs. And this will supplement the imprinting initiative to support students in their very first semester that we started last year. And I've already had several conversations with Doug, who I have charged with to oversee this integrated retention management plan. And he's already identified some areas of focus for us. I don't know if you want to share that with board members.
Sure. As I mentioned, this was something that we focused on in my previous institution. Some of these, and these are supported by the literature as well as my own success in the past few years. So in terms of retention, uniform and universal advisement. And when I say uniform and universal meaning every student, and uniform meaning the quality of their experience of advisement. And so looking into how well we can make sure that we're reaching every student at a high level of quality. Early alerts and intrusive advisement, or the Starfish is the technology that might help us to raise a flag that someone is having an issue that's going to get in the way of success. But that's just the technology. There's a people part. The intrusive advisement, my previous campus, what I began with was who has the verbal? So a red flag is raised, and they said, oh, they get an email from the president or from the provost. And it's like an email. I'm a psychologist. An email is not an intervention. I'm like, who has the verbal? And so that's the question in terms of intrusive advisement. How do we make sure that that happens when a red flag is raised? That in fact there's a verbal engagement with the student who may have any number of reasons. The research suggests that students attrit basically for academic reasons, financial reasons, or personal reasons, and insert what the issues are within that. And students retain based on academic engagement, or academic integration, social integration, or engagement with faculty or staff on campus, and engagement typically around activities of learning. So if this is what the field of higher education knows, how then do we put in place strategies that operationalize these ideas for our students? So I mentioned advisement, early alerts and intrusive advising, academic supports, tutoring, peer tutoring, those sorts of pieces. Often students forget that their first and best place for support is faculty office hours, which I often say we're already paying for. So I've had people go, we want more tutors, and I'm like, did you go to office hours? Please, go, we already have those. And that's the person who set the assignment, wrote the test, and knows what the expectations are. So that's your best feedback about what you need to be able to nail. Financial aid, and I mean that with a little f, little a, financial aids in terms of when students are hitting those barriers. We can have conversations about to what extent we have payment plans. I know we've changed our approach to small balances as students enter a semester, whether we hold them up or we can move them forward. Our OER, Open Educational Resources, or affordable instructional materials. My previous campus, we moved the cost of textbooks per semester from $600 and change down to $500 and change. Worked out to be on average $60 per student. $60 is real money, and that's important, and that we did in 1 year just by saying to the faculty, could you please take a look at the cost of your textbooks and see what you can do? That's all we did. I didn't spend any money, I didn't force anything, I just said, would you please? Because by the way, you may not know this, but when faculty get brochures and emails about textbooks, often nowhere in there is the cost. And if you want to find out the cost, you have to do some digging. So in terms of thinking, is this one really worth the extra? You have to really be a bit of an investigative reporter to find out that this one is $250 and that other one is $110. And the $110 one might be supplemented with a reserve reading or something to nail it. So just by asking faculty to take a look at that, they corrected themselves. But also SUNY and the governor have significant activities to drive and support those moves to affordable materials, and we have that being implemented here. Also, again, I mentioned faculty, staff, engagement with students around important activities. And this engagement quality is the basis of, you may have heard or not, of the National Survey of Student Engagement and Ku's work on success in college, that these engagement is the essential element of what's called a high-impact educational practice. And these are things, imagine things where you engage around learning in a deeper way with your faculty member, study abroad, independent research, independent study, lab classes, any of those activities. And my favorite is office hours, bumping into each other in the hallway, having lunch with each other, coffee, any of those activities are important. And my final one, which I think is really important, and Penny will like because there's no budget line necessary, a culture of abiding concern for student success. And I mean a culture meaning that it's everyone, and it's all the time. Every person in their role, in every moment, and in every interaction with a student, having at top of mind the goal of helping to move the student from where they are to success, whether it's nailing a great lecture, having good office hours, or seeing a student who looks lost in the hallway, and instead of walking past, offering to help. And that culture of abiding concern, I think, is really important, because you never know when someone's on the rails, whether they're going to retain or not. And that's important for them, most importantly, but also for the college.
Relating to that, what's their percentage of, with Starfish now? Is it,
I believe
I know it wasn't very
the
good.
number, 85% of the faculty had used it. And again, my next question is, and
And then what?
Where's the verbal?
Yeah.
I think that's how many are interacting.
what do we do with it?
don't we need that in order to,
What I did, the first year I asked the students, when we didn't have Starfish at the time, we had a different early alert. I said, who has a verbal? And eventually got to, we had the verbal by the academic advisors reaching out. And I checked our stats in terms of average GPA of those students who were flagged and persistence at the end of the semester and persistence into the next semester. And that year it didn't change. And being a good social scientist, I said, well, I wonder if my intervention occurred. So the next year, I did what's called a manipulation check to see if, in fact, we had implemented the treatment. So we identified the students who had the red flag raised, and I emailed them a single item survey, and that's what it said in the subject line. Single one item survey. And it said, as you know, we're interested in student success, and we have this red flag. We didn't tell them that the only people who got the email had the red flag raised. But it said, the one question was, has your advisor reached out to you? Yes, but we haven't had the conversation yet. Yes, and we have had the conversation, or no. 54% had been reached out to, 37% had had the conversation. And I think that was an under-measurement because probably in disciplines where there's labs, those interactions aren't formal. You know, they're just working in the auto lab, and the instructor says, "Hey, I wondered how you're doing. I heard you're not doing well in this course." Here, with the implementation of Starfish, we have 85% of the faculty using it. So the next question for me is, well, that's the technique for raising the red flag. What is our strategy, and how well are we using it, and how well is it working to help a student who's had a red flag remediate the semester? And that's really what we're trying to do. So I don't know the answer to that question yet, whether it's we are doing it, or that's the next thing we need to address.
thank you for that.
Any other
Appreciate that.
questions? Okay. Great. Thank you.
Thanks. Thank you, Doug. We're also looking to increase enrollment by the addition of new, relevant, and innovative programming, and this includes Homeland Security. Ed Hempel, who has stewarded a very successful police academy for many, many years, also retired this week. And so we're hoping to get him back to bring his leadership to this new program, which is his area of expertise. We're also looking at a one-year auto AOS degree, and this is in response to demand from local auto dealers that feel like they only need 1 year, and then we'll bring them on site for on-the-job training. We're also expanding our online offerings. One of our new online programs that we're offering is a network support technology certificate, and we recently, just yesterday, got approval to offer that certificate. Career Services has selected 10 student leaders to participate in its Career Services mentorship program this semester. The students have been matched with Western New York community partners based on their career interests, which include healthcare, business, finance, human services, and nonprofit management. And our partner companies include Citibank, People Inc., Child and Family Services, Horizon Health, Western New York Dental Group, Kaleida, Catholic Health, etc., etc. Many thanks to Katie Marshall for her leadership here. From Academic Affairs, our Advanced Studies offerings is up 20 courses from last year's spring year to date. And so again, this is our push to increase revenue from Advanced Studies. And then we're also increasing courses at Northland, our Workforce Training Center, with a new cohort in CNC machining. This will bring our total cohort for 2 in CNC and 3 in mechatronics. At the request of the county executive, our One Stop Career Center is hosting a Southtowns Job Resource Fair on February 20th from 1 to 3 p.m. at South Campus. Our One Stop Career Center is also partnering with the Food Bank of Western New York for our school pantry program, which would put food pantries on each of our 3 campuses. And we anticipate opening these sites in early February. So in terms of distance learning course enrollment, we're up 11% this semester over spring year to date. And I think this is a wonderful development. And our off-site classes are being offered by various employers, including Geico, Buffalo Fire Department, CAO Head Start, and the Buffalo Public Schools. And I just want to thank Rick again for his service to the college. He's provided a very strong foundation in terms of academic affairs. And I know of no one who has devoted as much time, energy, and heart to the institution. I mean, in terms of raw numbers, he's been here 33 years. He's supported over 300,000 students. He's seen 30,000 students graduate. You know, I'd come in on the weekends, and his car was there before I arrived. This was on Saturday and Sunday, and after I left. So 7 days a week. So we'll definitely miss him. He's agreed to help in chemical dependency, and we're happy to have him continue to serve.
Great. Yeah, proud to him.
In terms of advancement, we had a sold-out holidays event in December, and we raised $25,000 for the Thurman Thomas Family Foundation Scholarship Fund. And this scholarship provides a full ride scholarship for at least 2 second-year SUNY area students each year. And the foundation is currently in scholarship season and is working with marketing to drive awareness on the scholarship program for current and new students. Obviously, students that can get a scholarship are more attracted to coming to the college. We had a small team of myself, Doug, as well as others, visit GM in Tonawanda. And so we're looking at ways to collaborate, and that would include possibly scholarships from GM. And then we will have a visit from Inspired Dental sometime this month. We're looking at some partnership with our dental hygiene school, and then we also met this month with Bank on Buffalo, who may be interested in sponsoring our shuttle with a little banner that might say Bank on Buffalo on it. And our thanks to our board chair, Len. I will be meeting with our Lieutenant Governor, Kathy Hochul, tomorrow to advance the interests of the college as it relates to workforce and economic development, as well as support from the state. So thank you. That's all from the president.
One quick question.
Yes.
So how's the SUNY area cares rollout? And have you been doing like surveys you talked about back at convocation? Have you any data back on that?
Yeah. I want Fabio to get some time in and talk about surveys.
No, of course. We routinely run 3 or 4 surveys every semester. We run a course survey that is at the section level, every individual section of the college.
Just to clarify, I'm referring to the surveys that were going to be at the kiosks in the individual offices.
Oh, yes, those are now being deployed at all of the support units in the college. We haven't implemented every unit yet. Right now, we are focused on, I believe, the enrollment management units, and I believe Dr. Park's support units are either complete or near complete. We have not yet standardized the survey tool that we are rolling out to students. That we will do this spring for all of the offices so that all students or a sample of students will get the same survey. It'll be a quick survey, very short, very to the point, just to measure satisfaction. We don't want to make it too long, otherwise we'll get less engagement.
Just for, when do we roll out those kiosks? When did they start coming to the offices?
Kiosks began about a year ago. We have had the tool available from Starfish for about a year and a half, and we started implementing it around that time.
Okay.
And the first kiosk went live about a year ago.
Thank you.
Okay.
I have a question, just
Yes.
regarding Northland numbers for this semester, as enrollment numbers for Northland.
Northland was enrolling, I want to say 45 students this previous year. I'll have to go back and double check on that, because in the last couple of weeks we've still been in flux, and we're still bringing new students in to the program.
And what about retention of the last cohort, the first cohort?
We don't have that yet.
Okay.
We will probably have that in about 2 to 3 weeks after the enrollments have settled down.
Thank
Or,
you.
excuse me, I should say persistence, not retention yet.
Okay.
My last question for you, Steve. How's the program going with housing for our students at Canisius?
So housing, we had a number of students come in and a number of students leave housing this year, so it's still in flux at this point. We are approximately, similarly, in the 40s, about 45 students that are in housing there. So we lost, I believe, 13 students that just decided not to come back. There were a number of students that decided to transfer to four-year institutions. Some students decided to find more, economical options that better fit their needs. And, we're going to continue to examine our policies there, examine our onboarding practices, and just try to make that a stronger experience for students coming forward in the future.
In reference to the onboarding practices, do you think we're going to be offering like a SUNY Erie welcome packet to the students?
Yes, yeah, that's something that we're going to be producing there. We've already begun conversations about that for the fall.
For the fall, thank you.
Before we have our student trustee report, as custom, we usually start the meeting by reading our mission statement, and I neglected to do that this morning. So I'll do it this time. Our mission is SUNY Erie Community College meets the needs of a diverse student body and contributes to regional economic vitality by providing high-quality, flexible, affordable, and accessible educational programs committed to student success. With that being said, one of our more successful students, TK, would you want to give the report?
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
There you go.
Look to the future. It's very exciting this semester. We're going to have the SGA had a winter retreat where we reaffirmed our commitment to student success, which was amazing. So, spoke with a few key people over the last few months. One being actually yesterday, I spoke with Mr. Krishchenko in Mike Bukovich's office, and we really want students to know all the money that's available to them. So we're raising money, and that's amazing. But if students don't know these opportunities exist, what's the point? So I've kind of developed my own little 360 approach to doing so, and I have proposed we have an application day. So students will be able to go to the computer labs or to an English tutor lab or to the library and have key students there waiting so they can knock out that general application and at least start that process to getting money to them. As well as I'm really pushing for a physical presence in the financial aid office. I feel if financial aid is already on your mind, if you turn around and see $500 from this company is available to you, I think that's just a good flow of thought. And also, the SGA is committed to in any way if donors want to engage the student government process at all. So if they want to not necessarily even sponsor events, but somehow be involved with what we're doing to kind of have more of a feel and a connection to the college, we're more than happy to do so. For my own standpoint, I got my little pennies together, and I'm sponsoring my second annual Echelon Essay Contest. I did pass around the flyer from last year, and I did attach the winners. And based on student feedback, I then gave away like a laptop and gift cards, and they said, we want cash. So I said, all right, great, now you get cash. So everything but our pre-students spoke, and I listened. So yeah, just for your information. Thank you. So back to SGA, we're really focused on clubs this year, kind of piggyback off what you said, that students feel engaged with the academic process or the social. So we really want students to, whatever club they want, we're trying to lessen the barriers to entry. So we're working with the VP of Student Affairs, Dr. Clark, in ways that we can make it simple. So hey, before it took a whole semester to get $500 from the SGA to your club. Now we're saying we're going to give you this money up front, but we're going to work you through that process. That way, you know, people want to get going. Even to the point now where we have dozens of students who actually want to start a competitive video gaming club, and potentially would even want to have that be part of the National League, which is pretty awesome. They, you know, to be honest, it's the age of the future. I am still working with Fabio to get that student center working at City Campus. I'll be meeting with him later this week or next week, hopefully. One exciting initiative I got going on with the help of the women of the board is I wanted to put on, through SGA, a women's empowerment luncheon. So trying to target ladies who are already doing great and are honor students and are excelling, but also finding those who maybe need the extra pick-me-up. So we want to have a luncheon where we're going to have local entrepreneurs, people in public office, judges, to speak with the women and have a ladies who lunch kind of day, which is very, very exciting. And finally, working with Miss Marketing back here. On my own, I was going to do an unofficial SUNY Erie survival guide on YouTube with the help of students. So we're going to do pretty much like this is your first day, this is what you need to do, this is your first week, this is what you need to do, 6 months, and so on. And we're going to do it regardless. But I said, if you want your stamp on it, if you want a little bit of control, working with her office, and one of our SGA officers is one of her student workers. So it's going to be really exciting to roll that out. And I think that's really easy, because let's be honest, like you're going to type in your phone, SUNY Erie, right? And we want us to pop up so you know exactly what you're going to be accomplishing. And also to that, we are in the very early stages of developing a, not to copyright, have a moment, but that SUNY Erie TED Talk opportunity. So kind of a small, at one of our campuses, at our auditoriums, where students can submit papers that they want to present to the fellow student body and professors, just to give an opportunity to, you know, give public speaking experience and also just get their voice out there. Whatever they want to tell us, we'll listen.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Do you have a date on that yet?
No, super early.
So you'll let us know.
Absolutely, yeah. But to give you kind of we're aiming for April. We are aiming for April for that.
TK, just a suggestion for a potential speaker for the women's luncheon.
Oh, yeah.
Lenora Foote-Beavers, who is a graduate of SUNY Erie and also recently appointed City of Buffalo judge.
Speaker. Thank you.
She's on the foundation.
Yeah, before that's
Just two more notes. I did email with Vice President Tracy Cleveland, and we really want to have a student voice on executive level hiring moving forward. So it's a commitment from you and anyone else that students will have at least one representative on that moving forward. And in my 6-7 months so far, the biggest area of opportunity that I'm seeing is night students. So students who come here after 4 p.m. and can be here up to 9:30, 10 o'clock at night. Unfortunately, services do shut down around 3 o'clock around here, ranging from ASC services, so being food access, that's not vending machine, and also the bookstore, which is huge. We had students who we had to give SGA supplies to because they ordered binder, basic things off the bookstore, but they didn't get here until 4 o'clock. So we just said, you have a class in 10 minutes, here you go. So that's definitely an area of opportunity. We can work with ASC, figuring out what we can do. And just access to staffing help. I know I spoke with Steve about that before. I know we're kind of seeing what we can do about that. Are you still, that's on your agenda?
Yes, it is. Yes, it is.
Thank you. So that's it from the government. Thank you.
Okay, continued thanks
Sure,
for
anything else for us?
the efforts you make. This essay contest sounds great.
Thank you.
TED Talk is going to be fun.
We can't call it that, but you know, we're not paying them fees.
It's, but continued thanks for all the efforts you make.
Absolutely.
Thanks, sir.
I don't know if anybody's here from the College Senate. I don't think Colleen is here today.
You can do cat talks,
Okay.
DK.
Cat talks. I like that. Cat talks.
Anyways, the first College Senate meeting is,
Cat chat. That's cool. I like that.
Senate meeting.
Inspired by.
What's the date on that for the next meeting?
the next meeting of the College Senate is this coming Tuesday, the 12th at 2:30 at North B207. That'll be the first meeting of the semester. I'm planning on attending that, and that's always a good meeting. I don't think there's anybody from the auxiliary either. I don't see Sue. Any old business today? Any other issues? I know we've always got old business to take up. Any new business?
Just a question, we don't report on the foundation anymore here at this meeting?
I call it my advancement report.
Got it, okay.
And then I think Len also referenced our work with the operating agreement.
Okay.
Yeah, we've had a good meeting.
Okay.
Okay, we're not looking at a executive session today that I know of. Anything? Okay. We were going to have JMZ for our monthly learning opportunity, but because of last week's, weather, they could, obviously we didn't have that. They couldn't come today. I believe, aren't they coming next, in March?
When's the visit? When's the date?
They'll be here the first week of March.
Okay, they're just
to
coming
do
for
the
a-
first round of interviews, yeah,
Okay.
first round of meetings.
But there's not going to be any presentation in March.
No, not
Okay.
yet. This
That's
is,
okay.
they're still in data gathering mode
Okay.
right now, so.
That's fine.
They were supposed to be here last week, but they got snowed out. So we
Okay.
have to reschedule.
You're right, that's what I said, I knew we were gonna
Yeah.
have them last week. Okay, before we adjourn, any other issues? Our next meeting obviously is an informational session on the 28th. We were talking with the officers about some of the issues we can discuss at that. We can do
Absolutely.
that. Anything else before we entertain a motion to adjourn? Okay, if not, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn. Motion made, seconded. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
We stand adjourned. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
TK?